So I know that some of my videos have probably confused people, so I'm going to try to break it down. Long before the Revolution, okay, which was the beginning of America when we stood up against the British Empire and beat the holy shit out of them. Yeah. Don't know how we did it. Well, I do, because God had plans for this country. We really shouldn't have been able to win against them, but we did. And I'm sure we could kick their ass again, no doubt about it, because God is on the side of America. But see, the British aristocrats, the British crown was tied to the Nazis. And Kennedy was a British elite. The Kennedys they were tied in with all that aristocrat bullshit and the Nazi stuff. I'm not going to go too far into that except to say that the Kennedys, they were against communism, but they supported the kind of government that Hitler wanted. They did. So how do you think the Kennedys got in? Oh, well, the British crown. See, when we beat the holy hell out of the British Empire, well, they didn't take too kindly to that because, if you look at their history, they were enslaving Africans all over the world with Portugal and France, or Europe, really. Yeah. But America, 1776, that big piece everybody wants to leave out, is when we said, screw you and your bullshit, and we're going to beat your ass, and we did. We did. So, but the crown wasn't happy about that. But see, the crown had several major Ivy League universities already here. Yeah, they brought their elite racist universities, the same ones you saw at hearings a couple years ago. Columbia, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, William and Mary Academy. Yeah. All of these Ivy League schools, the same ones that Trump has been laying the hammer down on them because of their, well, more than anti-Semitic stuff, letting Jews be threatened and harassed, and they're racist. And then they're professors and they're, hoity-toity people that think we have class. Well, no, people that have class actually are honest. The Ivy Leagues aren't honest. The Ivy Leagues are the ones that pushed that America's systemically racist. No, we're the systemic part that fought back against the racist of the British crown and the Nazis. But because those universities were here, well, they were used to indoctrinate a bunch of idiots, that didn't know any better, and then went on to become as elite and hoity-toity, but lawyers, so no class. Lawyers and just scholars that would write our history and start telling Americans, well, no, you have a systemically racist country. No. The part you left out was that, no, the British crown was racist. They were enslaving people. Americans fought back against that just because you universities and some other institutions let the British crown get a hold of you, and you decided to stand with trash like that, all because they have a crown on their head. Just goes to show, no matter how much jewels and crowns and good clothes you put on, doesn't mean you'll ever have a bit of class. So they deliberately set out, their affirmative action in the universities and being racist, because then under America, they could tie that to our systemically racist history. And it's like, no, you people all tied to the crown. Your universities were here when you were keeping the colonies enslaved. We're different than you people. But let me show you which universities were here, and they've been the ones that have written the most about our systemically racist history. No, Americans aren't systemically racist. Americans are the heroes that fight against the racism of the British crown and all of their cronies in the universities. These universities were established before the American Revolution and have historical ties to British colonial governance, and religious traditions of the time often links back to the Church of England. I'll show the universities in a minute, but several elite American universities have acknowledged and written about America being systemically racist, either directly or through discussions of historical and ongoing racial inequalities embedded in Yale, Harvard, Princeton, the University of Pennsylvania, Brown, Dartmouth, and the University of Virginia have histories linked with white supremacy, slavery, and racial exclusion. I wonder why they would do that. Well, because the British Crown tells them to do that. So that then, because their universities are under America, you can say that America has this systemic racist problem. No, you do. You are the white supremacists. You've wanted to taint America's beautiful image. I mean, it's not perfect, but it certainly isn't anything close to how trashy the British Crown is. Harvard has publicly acknowledged benefiting extensively from enslaved labor in its history and has committed significant funds to research into this. Isn't that interesting? They've contributed and then want to research and then put their papers out about how America is systemically racist. But no, it's you universities. You're also the same universities that went on to get students to march with Hamas. Yeah. In my opinion, you should all be shut down, but Trump's making you pay up, so I don't know that that will make them change their ways, because we don't need trashy British elites trying to taint the our true systemic roots. And our systemic, America's systemic roots is fighting slavery, ending slavery, fighting the powers that be. See, we're warrior. I've said this before. Americans have this warrior gene in us, whether you're black or white. If you were born here, you have it because your ancestors fought. You know what the British Empire did when we went to war with them? Well, they started telling all the black slaves that they had sent here, you know, because the colonies were under the British Empire. They said, if you come back and fight on our side, we'll give you freedom. Some of them took them up on that. They didn't get their freedom in the end. Not for very long. But the ones that fought on our side, and many of them did, American founders, especially people like Abraham Lincoln, went to great lengths to protect and get, and they wanted slavery to eventually weed itself out. Obviously, the South took issue with this, but that doesn't mean America. You have to remember, many of these aristocrats were still around. That's how the British Crown has always been getting even with us. It's interesting because I had heard somebody say, well, not too long ago on Glenn Beck's show that, well, it was Britain that ended slavery. No, you guys are the ones that started it, though, everywhere. Yeah, and then when America beat your ass, you decided, oh, we better do something. We don't want America to be the people that actually fought against slavery, but the fact is we did. And then you tried to take credit for it, all the while continuing to undermine us with you and the Nazis. So you get your aristocrat people that are tied to the crown, like the Kennedys, who were also tied to the Nazis. There's some other ones in there. They are the systemically racist part of our country, but they don't represent America. They've always been serving the British Crown and the Nazis. So when next time you listen to Candace Owens, a couple things to remember. She's married to a royal. So she has a vested interest to attack the Jews. The British aristocrats were tied to the Nazis, like intimately tied. It married them. So do you think Candace is serving the right side? No. So it might be wise to stop listening to the enemies, the British royals that we beat. because they're racist.